All right, team. Welcome to the launch mastermind on the 13th of November, Friday the 13th. Um, well, let's do a little summary real quickly. Remember, the purpose of these masterminds is to bring together people that are experiencing similar similar highs and similar lows and similar projects and similar, task lists and all that kind of stuff. And put you in a group together and allow me to facilitate any way I can. So I want you to feel comfortable sharing your successes and sharing your struggles and asking questions, no matter whether you think they're good questions or not, and give everyone an opportunity to help. So first of all, we have an open floor here. One of the things that we've kind of been on this theme for over a month probably of contracts. So in the absence of somebody else's idea, or at some point we can answer any contract related questions. I want you guys to make sure, as in summary, that if you get a gig, right? Somebody wants your help buying or selling, that you feel comfortable accessing the paperwork, manipulating the paperwork, filling it in, sending it off for signatures, right? So if you don't feel like you are there, then you basically have two primary issues. Okay. The first is, do I understand the contracts and when to use what and how to fill it out? And the second is the technology part of sharing it and getting signatures. Okay. So if you go back through our YouTube, there are videos for mock offers. There's videos for financing contingencies, explanations of filling out loan documents, purchase and sale documents, all of that kind of stuff. I haven't created the videos of how to do it all within DocuSign through Command, but there's plenty of those in Sam's group as well, in Command with Sam. So the resources are in place to tackle both of those issues, but I understand that a lot of times it's nice just to hear a voice live talk about it. So let's say, is there any topics that you were just got a burning curiosity about? This is kind of we can ad-lib this a little bit. I'm comfortable talking about anything you want. Who wants to go first?
It's really that for me. I mean, I have the client getting ready to buy. God willing, I'm gonna get into a contract soon, and I'll definitely need for me, I probably won't really get the full grasp of it until I actually do it. So I probably really should do maybe like a little mock beforehand and really get up to speed on that. But yeah, because for me, I'm not 100% sure about what exactly the steps are, in what order, and what I need to do. So I definitely need to brush up on that.
Okay. We can certainly go over it. We can certainly spend some time on that. Anyone else have anything they want to cover? Do they think that's a good use of our time? Any other topics we want to go over? One, two, three. All right, John, you're the winner. That's what we're going to talk about today. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I'm going to encourage you to write a mock offer. Okay. Do it this weekend, because it's one of those things that you don't need to, do it with there's no pressure until you have to do it with pressure. Right. So let's self-create the pressure now. Your job is to write an offer this weekend, put it together. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about what that looks like. It's gonna be a bit of a bit of a skeleton list here, but let's see if we can kind of cover the high points. I'm gonna stand up. Okay, you're on the buyer's side. Okay, so by this time you have had a buyer consultation with them. Yep. And you have set the appropriate expectations. You have a very clear understanding of what they want, what they're looking for, right? They know by this time that if they're pursuing a resale, they need to come to you. If they're pursuing a new home construction, then they can also come to you. or they need to come to you. If they find something online at wherever they happen to find it, they know they need to come to you to get more information and access, right?
And I don't mean to cut you off, Bill, but he's also he's going through the knock program, which we're kind of in the middle of that. But assume that's been completed, and he receives a pre-approval letter from knock. So I have that in my arsenal as well.
Great. Yes, good point. So also by this time you have a clear understanding of what the financing looks like.
Right.
Okay. With that in mind, I do believe, and this isn't a bit of an extra step for the lender, and I got to be honest with you, if the lender doesn't want to do this, they're fired. Okay. I know that this sounds really harsh, but I'm in charge of the transaction, not you, me. Okay. So I'm going to set up the expectations of how I want my partners to behave. And if they don't like those expectations, they don't get to be on my team. Okay. So I know that sounds a little harsh, but I want to know what some closing costs are going to look like, because when my guy says I want to buy a home and I can't reach you, then that pisses me off. So I want to know ahead of time, what should I expect? Is that unreasonable?
Of course not.
Good. Okay. I think I've shared this with you. It just popped into my mind. I think it's worth sharing. We talked a lot about vendors just a second ago with Susan. Vendors they're kind of like, they're as good as their what have you done for me lately? Right. And it's kind of this idea of, you're my guy until you screw up, then we're never going to talk again. Are you clear? Right. I had a flooring guy for a very long time. He was a big supporter of my business. We got along very well. And then he hit on one of my clients, and that was the end of that. Okay. I had a woman one time that I met. She was a maid, this way back, housekeeper, cleaning lady, whatever you want to call them. We had negotiated, this is way back, long time ago. We had negotiated a $45 cleaning bill. Okay. And my buyer was particularly irritated with one little sticky thing going on above the fridge and one little sticky thing going on in one of the cabinets. And so I met the maid and I said, okay, here's what I need you to do. I got $45 to pay you. So that's the first thing I want you to clean. That's the second thing I want you to clean. And then you can do whatever you want here until you feel like you've earned $45 and that you can take off. Okay. And she cleaned the whole place top to bottom like I've never seen before. And we still work together nearly 15 years later. Okay. That same day, I met a carpet guy, and I was a little young, cocky idiot. And I was saying something to the effect of like, hey, I don't have a coffee. I'm going to have a lot of sales. So let's get into business together. You can help me. I can help you. And he screwed up that day and we haven't talked since. Right. So then I can't express to you how important vendor relationships are. They just make everything so much easier. Even if you never get any referrals, it's so much easier to have those relationships. Okay. But they screw up. There's a lot of electricians out there. I need you to be on my team. You screw up, I'm going to go find a different electrician. Right. So I say all that to say, I want to have a conversation with the buyer's lender to understand very clearly what the closing cost expectations are going to be. And because quite frankly, the buyer needs to know also, right? Are closing costs going to be $3,000 or $17,000, right? I need to know they're comfortable with the monthly payment, etc. All right. So by this time, we've got the buyer brokerage agreement signed, most likely. Okay. If not, it's time to have the buyer brokerage agreement signed. Okay. Meanwhile, if you know that you're starting to show somebody property, you could and should start an opportunity for them in side command. And more than likely, you know what type of loan they're going to get, right? Is it going to be FHA? Is it going to be conventional? You can begin to fill out some of the contract, right? You know what the man's name is or what the couple's name is or whatever. You know, you're probably going to put roughly 1% earnest money. It's going to be held by Keller Williams Realty Consultants. You know that they're buying a home in an HOA, most likely. Let's say they're buying a condo or something. Then you could put the little special stipulation that says, hey, seller will furnish all the HOA documents and bylaws and rules and regulations for review. You can start to pre-write the contract oftentimes, right? And then later on, you just need to, change the address or change the date or whatever, and it's nice and simple. That way, rather than it taking an hour to write the contract when all the pressure's on, and they got, oh my gosh, we got 17 offers, and oh my gosh, my wife's, had to go run out, and she couldn't, like all this stress that happens right around the time they say it's time. You're like, oh, it's time, right? I used to, sometimes we did that ahead of time, and I'd call my assistant on the way home from the showing, and I'd say, all right, add this step, that step, that step, change that to 3, change that to 21, add this date, have it pulled up on my computer when I come home. Meanwhile, I've already explained all of the stuff with them when it's non-stressful, right? So they already know what the contingencies are all about. They already know what the process and timing is going to be about. They already know what a due diligence period is. They already know what their obligations are once the deal goes binding in terms of getting their financials organized and all that, right? So it's simply like, all right, 123 Hill Street, 350, sign it, right? So what can you do ahead of time now where it's not stressful, right? So that later on, when there is some added stress, it doesn't freak you out, right? And everything is nice and simple for your buyer who wants it to be nice and simple anyway, because they're already freaking out because now there's a lot of stress involved. And now their wife really loves the house, and you're trying to figure out how to write a freaking contract. And that's not a great place to be. Make sense? All your energy needs to be devoted to sweet talking the listing agent into choosing your offer.
Exactly.
Not how to figure out how to drag in files into DocuSign.
8 o'clock at night. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. When your wife's like, hey, dinner's been on the table for 2 hours. Another night of your kids going to bed, without you saying goodnight. Oh my gosh, I've been there so many times, it's not even funny. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah, you have their you probably have their pre-approval letter, so you can do your financing contingency and have that uploaded and have
exactly.
your,
I mean, you could even have the draft of the email written, right?
have your cover letter written.
Have the cover letter, have the cover letter ready, of course.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, don't you think if all that stuff is done ahead of time, you're going to feel a lot more confident and poised when you're in conversations with your buyer, right? You could even have like what they call in Gmail, like canned responses, like, attached is the buyer seller or the purchase and sale agreement, our buyer's pre-qualification letter. They're working with a fabulous lender who I've worked with for a long time, who's very experienced. They're more than happy to get on the phone with you if that'd be helpful.
Copy and paste the email text.
Copy and paste it. Right? What can you set up in a templated format? They call it canned responses in Gmail, right? So where you just cut and paste it. And like we have, my system has a lot of these texting stuff figured out. It's like, dear XXX, or good morning, XXX. XXX means look for the person's name, right? It was a pleasure, XXX, speaking with you, texting with you, whatever it was, right? This blank, 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 or XXX. So my assistant will be like, name, texting, morning, right? Or name, speaking, afternoon. And she just fills in the blanks, right? Like, how can we make this easy? This isn't that difficult, is it?
No. Just
Okay.
just the components of it. That's what, I know, and this is very helpful too, but yeah, and then, just between this and knowing the components of it.
All right, so let's talk about the components of it. Okay. When you're working with a buyer, this is the general outline of what an offer consists of. Okay. First of all, you need your pre-approval letter.
Right.
Okay. You need all of you need the purchase and sale agreement.
Right.
Okay. If it is a condominium, then you need one more document, which is called the Condominium Addendum, I think it's called, or condominium.
Isn't it like CAM or something?
No, that's PAD probably that you're talking about. I'll get to that.
And what is the addendum?
It's basically just a restatement of what the HOA or what the legal description is.
Got it.
Okay. There's another document that is called, if you hang on one second, I will tell you exactly what that other one is called. Give me one sec. Okay, so you need the pre-approval letter. You need the legal description, or you need to either attach the legal description as an amendment, or in the purchase and sale, it says, you know, blanks for it's this land lot, this plat page number, this book number, that kind of stuff. Okay. The next thing you need to consider is the financing just call it a financing document. So the financing document is basically how this thing going to get paid for. And it's generally one of four things, either or one of five things, I guess. A USDA loan, which is very rare. Okay. A VA loan, an FHA loan, a conventional loan, or the all cash exhibit. Okay. So in all contracts, you're going to have the purchase and sale, the financing document. It's going to be one of those, only one of those. And then the next round of things will be any of the disclosures.
Got it.
So those disclosures are generally the seller's property disclosure and the, hang on one sec.
Now that's what now the other ones, okay, I had taken notes before.
Make
but
sure,
now-
let me finish that thought real
Oops, I
fast. So
apologize.
seller's property disclosure,
Mhm.
condominium, or I'm sorry, community association disclosure. That's not necessarily, has nothing to do with condominiums, although all condominiums are going to have that. But if it's let's say it's a single family house, but it's in a community with some rules and regulations and some annual fees or something, like maybe for swim and tennis or something of that nature, it's community association disclosure. If the home was built prior to 1978, it should have the lead-based paint disclosure. Okay. Meanwhile, you're not creating these really, you're requesting them. So if they should be attached to the FMLS as uploaded documents, and if not, you reach out to the listing agent and say, hey, can you send me all the disclosures, please?
Okay. Okay, but I'm sorry, am I attaching the disclosures with my offer?
Assuming you've got them, yes. So what I mean by that,
Why do I need to I mean, isn't that known by everyone at this point? Why is that part of my offer? The property disclosures. Just curious.
yeah, I hear you. Let me
Sure.
I want to make sure, documents. I have like 8 thoughts at once, and I want to make sure I wrap all of them up
No.
I want to wrap all of them up. So I'm trying to give you the name of that other document. I'm just pulling it up right this second. Give me half a second. It is called the Community Association. It is called, damn it. Hang on. Two seconds. I'm going to give you a very, very thorough answer.
Bill, thanks. No, take your
Don't
time.
even stress. It is called the Condominium Resale Purchase and Sale Exhibit. Condominium Resale Purchase and Sale Exhibit. It's F204. Okay. Okay, so you're asking me what about the disclosures? So here's the deal. The disclosures are, in my opinion, you shouldn't be writing an offer until you've seen the disclosures.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but the seller has provided that to the seller's agent. I have reviewed the disclosures prior to previewing the property with my buyer.
Possibly.
Why wouldn't I?
Well, because they ideally should be updated they should be uploaded into the listing.
Right.
Right. Yet, I mean, I look, if you're showing 8 or 10 properties or something, I'm probably not going to spend too much time looking over the disclosure statements for a property that they may not even be interested in. But theoretically, if you download them and you bring them to the thing and you look at the disclosure with the buyer when you're there,
Yeah,
yes, but when you send over the offer,
right.
you're signing the disclosure that says, I acknowledge receipt of this. I acknowledge seeing this.
Oh, okay. I'm not sending the actual disclosures as part of the package.
Yeah, you are. Because
Oh, I am the entire, oh,
because it's going to be part of the contract.
oh, okay. Got it. Got
Right.
it. Okay.
And there's a psychology involved there too, because, okay, let me come back to the psychology. So you're going to receive the disclosures,
Right.
upload those into the system. You're going to label it like whatever A, B, C, D exhibit or whatever. And they're already signed by the seller. So now you're going to have your buyer sign.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Got it. Got
The
it.
idea is that we want the seller, we want it to be easy for the seller to agree to the contract. And once they agree to the contract, for it to be, all the I's dotted and T's crossed, right? So you don't want to ideally, you don't want to go back and say, oh, I'll send the disclosures later. We'll get to that during the counteroffer phase. No, we're not talking about counteroffers. That's the offer.
That's the offer. Got
Hey,
it.
Bill, can I ask a question at this point? When you send something back and it has the seller's disclosure on it, but your client wants to maybe negotiate for the dryer or the washing machine, is that something you do at that point, or do you wait till further along to start negotiating little things like that?
I generally would not come out with that request, right? So you should acknowledge receipt of it. So sign it as it's written, like the fridge is not included or the washer and dryer is not included. And then if it's something that you ultimately change, you can edit it later or right before you sign, or maybe they'll add it as a stipulation or something, right?
But you would never take that document and before you send it back, check all kinds of checks on there and make changes to it.
My question also.
No, I wouldn't do that. I might say, like, in the course of a counter offer or something like that, then I might say, hey, we'll agree to this, but we need the fridge.
Okay.
Right.
But won't my offer, but say that
they accept it, then what happens?
Say that the disclosure says that the refrigerator isn't included, and my buyer wants that refrigerator no matter what or something.
So I would just add that as a
stipulation.
I'd add that as a stipulation.
Okay, fair enough.
But what we're seeing now is that a lot of stuff that was 10 years ago included, things like, a pool table or flat screen TVs that were mounted and a nice refrigerator and washer and dryer systems, because they were basically begging buyers to buy. Like, you want the flat screen, you can have it, right? Just buy the home, please. Now it's exactly the opposite. They're like, okay, well, I'm going to take away that fridge and I'll sell it on Craigslist for $500 because you don't need it to buy this house, right? So here's my point. If there's something on the seller's disclosure,
right,
okay, that is not the way you want it to read, then you basically have to make a calculated decision. Am I going to tend to this up front, or am I going to tend to this later? Okay, an example of, in this environment, I would tend to most of that stuff later. Okay, I'll give another example. Okay, you're probably not going to take the landscape lights with you. Okay, the seller's probably not going to take the, switch plate covers. They're probably not going to take the cable outlets. They're probably not going to take the basketball, goal post or whatever, right? But the goal is to win. Okay, if then after the fact during due diligence period, you're like, hey, by the way, can we just clear up this little, what was probably an oversight? You are going to include the switch plate covers, right? Can we go ahead and redo that disclosure? Because if they say, no, we're not going to include it, or no, we're not going to do that, then if you're not happy, you can walk away. But meanwhile, the other guys that were competing for that property are gone.
Right.
Right. So the first objective is to win. Once you win, then you can sort out all the details. And if you're not happy with the way they're sorted out, then you can leave. But what I'm going to encourage you to do is not cloud your offer with basically every little thing that's ever gone wrong in a real estate transaction.
Yeah, I completely forgot about the whole due diligence period. So that makes perfect sense.
Me too.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
But but what if you have like such material change? What if you know that your buyer wants,
So
you know,
then that's
10
part of the
things?
offer. You need to say, hey, we're going to pay you this, and the stipulations say buyer wants basketball goal. It doesn't appear like it's
But
been
in your original, but in your first offer though, you put all that in your.
yeah,
As a special stipulation.
if that is something that is
Okay.
a must-have, a critical, yeah.
Okay.
However, but the
I agree. I see.
that presupposes, John, that they feel that strongly about a refrigerator that costs $1,000 when they're buying a $400,000 house.
Right.
In
Right.
a seller's market with 1.3 months of supply with 17 other offers they're competing over.
Understood.
So just the fact that they're holding firm to that, or they're trying to hold firm to that, may be an indicator that you need to remind them about the things you talked about during the buyer seminar to begin with. Does that make sense?
Sure. Sure. I was just thinking about if you have like 5 or 6 material things, you don't want to put it in the original initial offer, then have that offer accepted and say, oh, wait, no, there's 5 other things we want. I would think you'd want to get that out in the open up front.
Okay, okay. So that's a slight nuance from what I said earlier. Let me echo that back then. So there are things that are material in material like, right? So things like, hey, no, I really want that secondary fridge. So I know you've signed the contract, but can I have that fridge? They're like, no.
Right. That's what
I'm referring to like things that you might assume would be like oversights, like the switch plate covers. Okay. Like if their disclosure is a little sloppy and later on you want to try to clean it up a little bit, then I would do that after the fact.
Got it.
Okay. If there are material issues that your buyer's not going to be satisfied unless they're tended to,
right,
then you need to talk about that up front.
Of course, $1,000. That was a poor example of $1,000. I'm thinking maybe like a structural, like he wants to replace cracks in the driveway or something, or some plumbing issue.
Don't be including that in an offer. Okay.
Okay.
Don't be including that kind of stuff in the offer. You'll never get accepted, especially in this environment.
Got it.
Okay.
Thanks, Bill.
Now, if the disclosure says we have cracks in the driveway, the seller has evidence that the driveway is caving into the center of the earth and we're broke and can't fix it, and it is an ongoing problem, well, you just submit an offer with enough money to pay for it, right? Say, hey, the comp suggests this place worth $250.
Got it.
My cement guy says that's a $50,000 problem. So you got an offer for $180. You interested?
Cool. I hear you, Bill. Thanks.
Do you understand that nuance there?
Makes absolute sense. Yes.
Okay. Now, just as a side note, the way that you're, and Melba may not agree with me on this, and it wouldn't be the first time Melba and I have disagreed on something. Look, the seller's disclosure is in fact the seller's disclosure, but I'm the one representing the seller. So if they fill out that thing and it's sloppy as hell, I'm going to have a conversation with them about, hey, we need to clean this up. Okay. We need to be thorough here. I want you to check everything that should be checked. I want you to reword the way you wrote that, because that makes it sound like it's still a problem and we know it's not a problem, right? I want it to be written in a way I'm proud of showing, because if I send a sloppy disclosure statement to the buyer and to the buyer's agent, they're going to say, I guess they're sloppy people. I bet they don't check their, air filter every 6 months. I bet they don't clean their gutters. I bet no one's been tuning up these HVAC systems, right? I wonder if they forgot to pay the tax bill, right? It's like, like everything is, you're always communicating. You can't not communicate, okay? So if I receive a disclosure statement, it's all sloppy, then my first response is, what's the deal with this house?
Yeah.
Right? What's the deal with this other agent? Did they not look to see that the landscape lighting box wasn't checked? Like, they're not going to rip up their landscape light box, are they? Right? But you never know when the deal is going to go south. This didn't happen to me, and I don't believe it happened to anyone in our office, but I heard a story once about this very large house, like 10, 12,000 square foot house. and everyone was getting along until they decided they weren't getting along. And the boxes for light bulbs and switch plate covers were not checked. And the seller said, this buyer's pissing me off, and I think I'm going to remove all the light bulbs and all the switch plate covers, and they were entitled to do so.
Oh, God.
Right? And they did that in a big house they needed ladders to do it and all that stuff. And like literally you buy light bulbs for a house like that, could be $1,000 worth of light bulbs, not to mention the problem of doing it.
For sure.
Right? And they did it just because the contract allowed them to do it, and they didn't give a damn.
And they just wanted to piss the others, right?
It's not piss them off. They were abiding by the contract, and no one figured. I mean, yes, it's pissing them off. It's not really working in good faith, if you will.
Right.
But the agent's job is to make this thing simple.
Yeah.
Who do you think paid for those light bulbs, by the way? I bet it was split between the two agents.
Yeah, somebody had to eat it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You see what I'm saying? So if there's something missing from the contract, it's your obligation to fix it, right? By the way, it's not your like, let's say that you get an offer from a buyer, and like it's a great offer and you want to work with them, and there's like a typo that's like clearly a typo that if that contract was signed, like they would like be in a lot of trouble. Just do the right thing. Be like, hey, I think that's a typo. Do you want to just double check that? Right.
Right. Guys, I got to run.
Yeah.
I could stick around longer, but I got to
Thank you, Michael. I hope this was helpful. This, as always, it'll be recorded, so tune in later if you need to. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thanks. You too.
John, does that answer your question?
I'm okay. Yeah. It's the components of it. Yes. So it's the acknowledgement of it's more so of course the acknowledgement of the disclosures.
That's what it is. That's exactly what it is.
Right.
It is, and that's a good word to use, because you're not agreeing with it.
Right.
And you're just acknowledging that you've received it.
Got it.
You've reviewed it. Okay. The disclosure, as weird as it sounds, is not for the benefit of the buyer. It's actually for the benefit of the seller.
Protecting the seller.
It's designed
sure.
to give the seller an opportunity to protect themselves based on what they choose to disclose.
Got it.
Make sense?
Yep. It does. Absolutely.
All right. Any other questions, guys?
Hopefully I can put that into practice soon, Bill.
All right. Well,
all that knowledge will pay off soon.
It will. It will. You're every day, like I've said, John, you were following this every single day. When the head hits the pillow, you have to ask yourself two things. Number one, am I a better realtor than when I woke up this morning? Right? Do I understand something better than I did before? Am I better equipped to make a presentation or handle a phone call or handle an objection or something like that? Do I understand the market better? Do I understand the contracts better? Am I better at explaining things? That's one task. The second thing, gosh, I can't remember the last time that I had everyone with their video on. This is so exciting. And the second question is there anybody in the world that now might come to me if they had a real estate issue that would have not come to me earlier this morning? And if you're learning each day and you're growing your business each day, you're on track. All right. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you.